Good morning. This is Patrick, and it's time for Midweek Motivation Live. I hope everyone's doing great today. It's a beautiful morning in downtown Amarillo, Texas. I'm happy to be here on the show today. I've been having a great conversation with one of my agents here on through text, and it's been motivating me like crazy. And I'm working with this agent and helping her recreate herself into the agent that she wants to be. She's a phenomenal agent already, and we're working on that a little bit more. Always coaching, always motivating, always leading people to do better, to make faster decisions. Today, I want to talk about you. We've been talking about me, but today let's talk about you. Today's topic is recreating you. Becoming your own superhero. What do you mean, Patrick? Becoming my own superhero. How many of you love superhero movies? I know I'm asking people that are already watching. People are already watching the show. People are already tuning in. Comments are already starting to come in. Becoming your own superhero. How many of you like superhero movies? I do. I grew up when I was a kid. The first comic books I read were Superman and Batman, of course, and many of you did too. And then I graduated from DC to Marvel, and I became a huge Spider-Man fan. But not only did I like Spider-Man movies, and then now later on Marvel movies, I read the comic books. I'm 57 years old, and I read most comic books. I read all of the DC. I read all of the Justice League, and then when I moved into Marvel, I turned into a huge fan of the Silver Surfer, of the Fantastic Four, and Hulk, and Thor, and Iron Man, and many of those guys. Remember most of the arch villains that they faced. But then I also got hooked as I got a little bit older. I got hooked on superhero movies. I got hooked on motivational movies, and always rooting for the hero. And it always impressed me, and it may you as well. When someone would come from behind, when someone would get beat down, knocked down, and then come back and recreate themselves into the person they needed to become a winner. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. How many of you watched Rocky? Raise your hand, like and love this video. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and click the bell and subscribe, and turn on notifications. If you're on Facebook, like, love, share the video. Each and every week, I pick somebody to go in a drawing for some neat swag. And as of the previous show, we talked about getting Midweek Motivation Live swag. So not only do you get books or music, or sometimes a Patrick Lee real estate group swag, we also we're going to be ordering Midweek Motivation Live swag. I'm happy to announce that today. Good to see you guys already tuning in. Hey, yo, what's up, Code, my man? Good to see you on here. But I love Rocky movies. You know, there are numerous times Rocky would go into a fight. He'd open his mouth and he'd create a big mess, and he'd end up getting in the ring, and then he'd get beat, right? Rocky would get beat. He'd get beat down. He'd get knocked out. And then he would go back and recreate himself. One of the movies, he was fighting Drago, the giant Russian, right? And he was like 7 foot tall and 350 pounds of solid muscle. He gets beat in a fight, and he ends up going to Siberia and living in the snow. And for months and months, he recreates himself. He starts putting in the work, doing the workouts, doing the brutal things to his body to encourage his body to grow, right? Terry says, who I am is a direct result of three things. In the comments, I'm sure you're going to let us know what all three of those things are anyway, right? But in that movie, Rocky ends up coming from behind. He recreates himself, and this other man seemingly is a superhero to the Russians. And Rocky, being much smaller, uses his recreation of himself, the drive, the brutality of his workouts, to eventually win over the people and beat their hero, and he wins. He knocks the guy out. And at that point, everyone starts cheering for this smaller American who ends up winning the fight, right? In Spider-Man, numerous times, Spider-Man will get knocked down. He'll go back, and, Batman got knocked down. Superman was even knocked down, and in the movies and some of the comic books was seemingly killed. And then the superpowers of the sun and the red planet, everything came back and helped him. But many people, I was a wrestler. Cody, you watching the show, you were a wrestler. Vision Quest was one of my favorite movies years ago. And this guy was going to be wrestling Shoot, who was like the biggest, toughest guy. And he ends up having to go back and recreate himself as a wrestler, to do the hard workouts, to put in the training, to put in the brutal exercises, to make himself into the superhuman type version of himself that he needs to be to win the match. And in the end, he comes back and wins. How many of you would fight with your friends after watching a movie? When the movie's over, you'd leave the movie theater, and out in the street, before you even got, maybe when your parents were picking you up before you could drive, or on the way to the car, how many of you would be, quoting lines from the movie? Or you would automatically be talking about, man, I wish I was Rocky. Man, if I was Rocky, I'd knock you out. How many of you ever told your friend, I'll knock you out? I have. I've knocked out a friend before. That's not always the best thing to do to your friends, right? I've been punched in the face, and I've punched guys in the face. I don't recommend it. It's not, it doesn't feel good, but you get motivated, right? You get motivated by the things that you see, the things that you watch, the things that you put into your spirit, and they start changing who you become. Well, my question to you today, number one, the question I want you to ask yourself is, who are you anyway? What drives you? What kind of vision quest? Do you see yourself on a vision quest? Do you ever see yourself as a guy that's been knocked down, and you're knocked down, you don't know how you're going to make it forward in life, and you find yourself self-analyzing, looking inwardly to see, where did I fail? Where did I go wrong? What can I do? What do I need to do to get over the slump? Maybe it's a batting slump. You're a baseball player, and you're striking out. Maybe it's basketball, it's wrestling. You're not able to get the pins that you want, the decisions that you want. Maybe it's in business, and you're not able to get the sales that you want. I'm in real estate, and if I quit selling homes, I'd probably be out of business pretty fast. The resources would dry up, the savings would go away, and I'd have to look inwardly and define, who am I? Why am I doing what I do? So I want you to think about that. Some good comments already coming in. Terry says, yes, the three things, who I am is a direct result of three things. Great comment here. The one who saved me, the people I surround myself with, and last but not least, what I put into my mind. Amen. That's a great comment. Garbage in, garbage out, right? Whatever you put into your mind starts feeding who you are. And you have either a champion or a loser inside. And which one of those people are you going to feed? You going to feed the champion, or are you just going to feed crumbs to the loser? None of us, I don't identify anyone on the show as a loser. I believe every one of you are winners. You want to know why I think you're winners? Because you come back and watch the show. You have a desire to do better. You want to get motivated to do more things with your life. Good morning, Pete. What you feed yourself with will drive you. Amen. That's a great comment. What are you doing it for in life? Once you've looked inwardly at yourself and said, who am I? And maybe you have to do the old line down the piece of paper and start writing the positive things about yourself down on paper, and then also the negative things, and learn how to eliminate a lot of those negative things from your life. But if you really don't worry about that, if you focus on doing the good things in life that you already do, focusing on the features that are positive that you already have in your life, I think that you will find that as you continue to work on those things, that the things that are negatives in your life are going to start to go away on their own. What you focus on expands. The most expensive piece of real estate, I sell real estate for a living. Let me tell you, I've sold stuff that's very cheap and stuff that's very expensive. But the most expensive piece of real estate you will ever come across is the area between your temples. Okay? What's in your mind? What are you doing it for? Everything that you've defined about yourself in life, there has to be a reason behind it. Who are you doing it for? I can get really heavy, and this is here to motivate you. I can tell you a couple of my motivations. And one of my motivations when I was younger, I may have shared this in the past, I was very small. We came from from a large family. There were 7 of us. I was number 4 of 5 kids, and Dad ran the emergency medical services for our hometown. He and my mom also ran a janitorial business. They cleaned the local banks and some offices, always doing odd jobs, working for other people, helping other people out. My dad was a very respected person when he died about a year and a half ago. Very respected. Many people loved Ken Lee. He was a great guy. But, you know, 25 years ago, my sister was murdered. The oldest of us 5 kids was my sister Debbie. And I don't say this to get heavy. I say this to help, maybe help some of you. My sister became a motivator of mine. She was murdered in her sleep and in the early hours, wee hours of the morning. And as the results came out and the evidence came out, it was determined that yes, she was murdered in her bed and then drug into the bathtub. And this sounds gruesome, and it is. And I say that so you'll know where I come from. Then was drug into the bathtub, and they turned on the water in the bathtub and tried to make it look like she drowned. And that all came out in the court case. And someone was tried for her murder and got off on that. It was nearly 10 years later before that person was indicted for the murder and was brought to trial. And the evidence at that point, most of the evidence disappeared. And the individual that was tried for her murder ended up getting off, was not convicted, and is still walking around free today. So I could have used that and let it ruin my life. My oldest sister, Debbie, and I were very close. And we both shared a love of singing. We sang in church growing up. We loved working. She got a job as a very young teenager so she could buy her first car. I turned around at the same way at 14. I went out and got a job because I wanted to buy my own school clothes. I wanted to buy my own car. I wanted to pay for things for myself because I knew if I could buy it with my own money, I had more control of what I could have, right? The things, if I control that, right, I can have the things that I want in life without relying on mom and dad and then later on someone else. So at 14 years old, I went out and got a job. At 15 years old, my sister went out and got a job cleaning a local restaurant after hours, and she would do janitorial work in there and then started doing other jobs and always had her own money. So of the 5 of us kids, she was the first one to grow up, move out, got married. And her and her husband at that time ran a lumber mill. They inherited it from the family. They sold their shares in that and moved into town. She went to college after being out of school for years and years, over 10 years out of school. She decided to go back to college to get her degree. She got her degree in social services and ended up working for the welfare office. She was in charge of removing children from abusive situations in homes, and was doing very well and recreated herself. And at that point, no one of my brothers and sisters, none of us had gone to college. None of us had gone past high school. And both of my brothers had went into the military in the National Guard, and I'm very proud of them for doing that, and then got out and went to work. And but my sister recreated herself, and that was a motivator for me. I've shared a lot of things about being 18 and someone, or 19 and someone dropping a motivational cassette into my lap one day at a drive-through window. That started my life going forward to changing me, the motivational books, tapes, seminars, recreating me. But who are you doing it for? My sister became one of my strongest motivators. And I haven't shared this as far as this portion of this. I've shared my sister's death. I've touched on it on here a long time ago. And I've shared some of the details with a couple of people, but very few people know the details surrounding my sister's murder. But when you look up to someone, right, and that person is gone, you start doing it for them. And we all like to believe that our loved ones have passed on and they're in a better life. They're no more pain. They're enjoying heaven with God and Jesus, the Holy Spirit. They're in a better place, right? No more tears, no more pain. But we want to believe that they're looking down on us, right? Encouraging us, helping us, wanting us to go for it, right? So she became one of the people I was doing life for. And she actually became a very strong motivator in my life for many, many years. And so maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's one of your parents that's passed on. And friends of mine watching the show right now have lost parents recently. I lost my dad last year. Many of you have lost loved ones for many different reasons. My heart goes out to you. And I'd like to think that you think that you're doing things for that person that has passed on. I'm doing it for my dad. My dad's a motivator of me still. My pastor, Pastor Brian Gibson, walked up to me at church the day after my dad passed away. And he said, Patrick, the mantle has now fallen on you. Your father's mantle has fallen on you. And that was a heavy revelation to me that now I'm the dad, right? I'm that mantle, that responsibility as a provider, as a leader, as a person that's going to take care of his family, that has fallen on me. And I wish that it had fallen on anybody but me. But at the same time, it was a wake-up call for me that has fallen on me. So the passing of my father is, am I doing things in life for him? To a degree. Today I'm wearing his watch, and this was my dad's watch. I love this watch. It's not an incredibly expensive watch. My dad wasn't a man of huge wealth, and they got by and they paid the bills. And I'm wearing my dad's watch. And when I was growing up, when I got married, I used to wear the colognes that were the fashionable colognes that all the women wanted. And my wife would buy me these colognes. But as I started getting older in the last couple of years and my dad passed, you know what I wear now? Bay Rum, Clubman, the things that my dad used to wear. My dad used to love Bay Rum cologne, and I'm wearing Bay Rum cologne by Clubman. If you go to the barber shop now, you get rubbed down with your haircut, usually by Clubman, because that's what men wore. Old Spice, High Karate, Stetson. These are some great colognes that have been around for years, right? So we emulate, want to be like the person that we're doing life for, my daddy, my mom, the things that motivate us. Who are you doing it for in your life today? That's what I want you to ask yourself. Who are you doing life for? And then I want you to ask yourself this question. What does God think about that? What does God think about that? Are your goals worth it? We asked last week, are your goals worthy? What does God think about your goals? And what do you think God would think about who you are doing life for? And I want you to let that become a motivator for you. In life, you make a lot of promises to people. And some of those promises you keep and some of them you don't, right? By a raising of hands, we probably all make too many promises. Number one, promises that we have, some promises we intend to keep. Randy Travis had a song out years ago called The Road to Hell is Paved with Good Intentions, right? But mama, my intentions were the best. So we all have good intentions and we want to do right by our family, by our deceased loved ones, the people that have gone on before. We want to honor God with our decisions and the goals we set, right? If they're not worthy, if they're not going to bring glory to God and honor his kingdom, then what are they worth? What are they really worth? All of our works are as filthy rags before God if God is not the reason behind that. And this isn't a preaching show today. I'm just here to inject this into your thought process, because I believe if, as I talk to you about recreating yourself, if you'll ask yourself the hard questions and make the hard decisions, you'll start learning what it takes to be a better version of you. And those are my goals. The reason, and I'm going to throw a heavy revelation on you right now. The number one goal in life, the reason that I do what I do is to keep the promises that I make to myself. And I want you to keep the promises you make to yourself. Number one is your family is a motivator. Your deceased relatives are a motivator, right? You can say, I go out and I bring home the paycheck every week so I can pay the bills and I can feed my family. But at the end of the day, if everyone else in your life went away and you are walking this planet as an individual, as a single man, as a single woman, living on your own with your own bills to pay. Are you proud of you? Are you proud of yourself? Are you living the kind of life that's at the level that you think you should be living? Some of you might say, hey, man, I'm living higher than I ever thought I ever would. That's kind of me. But as I started growing up and realizing that I could do more, I continue to stretch my goals. Every time I start getting close to the goalpost, I move that goalpost a little bit. I give myself the small victories and I enjoy those. I allow myself to relish in the fact that I achieved these goals. And then I move the goalpost, because if I sit here, I'm going to get stagnant. I'm going to get stale. I'm not going to move forward. I'm going to sit here and revel in this self-love that I'm the man, but I'm never going to move past that, right? Never going to move past that. Keep the promises you make to yourself. If you promised yourself that you're going to lose weight, man, start losing weight. Hit the gym. Quit eating. I'm on a dinner and intermittent fasting right now. I have been for a week. After about day 3, I thought the paint on the walls of my office started to look appetizing. You know what I mean? When you start denying your flesh the steak, the apple pie, the dessert, the ice cream. So after 2 o'clock every day, I'm having no solid food. And I'm going to do that for 30 days because I've made a promise to myself that my flesh isn't going to control me. I'm going to control my flesh. I'm going to control my thought processes. I'm going to control the things that I allow to go into my mind and control this real estate. Do I want to plant a crop in this real estate in my mind that's not going to bring me a harvest that's worthy? Of course not. So you make these promises to yourself and you have to keep them. Make the promises to yourself and then keep them, because you are worth it. If you don't keep the promises you make to yourself, why in the world would you think you're going to keep the promises you make to someone else? Because you could say, oh, well, it doesn't matter if I break a promise to me, my word is more important to someone else. Well, isn't that counterintuitive? Doesn't your psyche all tell you, if you're not going to keep the promises you make to me, why in the world would you even make an attempt to keep the promises you make to someone else? Of course not. So number 1, keep the promises you make to yourself. You've determined if your goals are worth it or not. Who are you doing it for? At the end of the day, you need to do the things you need to do for you. Because if you aren't worth it, you're never going to think anyone else is either. This is hard things for some people to say, and I'm here to help you. I want to motivate you. But man, if you don't think you're worth it, in the back of your mind, you don't think anyone else is worth it either, right? And number 1, you're worth it. You can become your own superhero. At the end of that movie, when Rocky wins, it's an incredible feeling, right? When the Avengers come back and regroup and they beat what's his face, the bad guy in Avengers Endgame, Thanos, whoever it is, when they win, they won, right? The superhero digs deep, the fighter digs deep, and they come back with the win. Why? Because they made a promise to themselves that they're going to do it. They knew they were good enough to do it. They just had to put in the work. That's really it. Becoming someone you can be proud of. If you're not going to keep the promises you made to yourself, you're probably not going to keep them to anyone else, right? When you start keeping the promises you make to yourself, you become someone you can be proud of. You said, what? I'm a person that keeps their promises. If I say I'm going to achieve a goal, I'm going to achieve a goal. I don't care if it hair lips the governor or I show up on the finish line with a limp. I'm going to cross the finish line. I'm going to achieve that goal. And when you're proud of yourself, you can pour out into others. Others will become proud of you, and they know that you're a man or a woman of your word, and they can trust you. While you're doing this, there are going to be times that it gets hard. It's going to be really hard, and you're going to want to call a friend and complain. And every now and then, I'll take a call from a friend and I'll let them complain for a little bit. And then I end up turning the conversation around, and it turns into a motivational conversation for them and me, because I start teaching myself through their pain, through their problems. But a number of times, if someone is just a complainer, I don't end up, and I know that, I recognize that, I just don't end up taking the calls anymore. If they're always negative, if they're always complaining, right? Is it okay to complain sometimes? Absolutely. You just have to remember this: the only person you can complain to is yourself. Complaining to other people does nothing but belittle you in their eyes. You belittle yourself in their eyes when you start to complain. Because when you complain, you're always casting blame. And if you're going to cast the blame on anyone, you need to cast the blame on yourself. So if you want to complain, and I complain from time to time, and I do it in the mirror, I do it to myself driving down the road and say, Patrick, you could have done better. Why did you say what you said? Why did you do the thing that you did? Why do you continue to not keep the promises you've made to yourself? Why did you decide today to not go to the gym? Or why did you decide today to eat that second slice of pie? Because pie's good. But if you're going to complain to somebody, do it to yourself. No one likes a complainer, right? They'll end up eliminating you from their life if you complain all the time. So it's okay to complain. Just remember, you need to do it to yourself. So when you've gone through all of these steps, right, you've identified who you are, what your goals are, and who you're doing life for. You need to recognize this. Just go back and remember, you're doing life for you first. And it's not selfish to say, I'm doing it for me. You have to learn to take care of you first, or you will never be able to take care of those around you. If you don't keep the promises you've made to yourself, you'll never keep the promises you've made to anyone else. If you don't achieve your own goals, it's going to be very hard for other people to trust you and believe in you when it comes to you motivating them to achieving their goals, right? Become someone you can be proud of. If you get knocked down 100 times, get up 101. And at that point, you will have become your own superhero. Hey guys, I appreciate you coming each and every week to watch the show. As always, I do this as a service to you. I love you guys. I want you to do better in life. Thank you for all of the kind comments today. Very good stuff. People commented. These all show up on Facebook as well. And I want you to like and share the show. I do this because I sell real estate for a living. But I also do this because I want you to be motivated. If I can help you buy or sell a home or invest in real estate, I'd love the opportunity to serve you in that way as well. Click on the link to my digital video in the comments below, to my digital business card in the comments below this video. It's going by on the ticker right now, www.patricklee.work, created by Nick Krim and Michael K at Content Cardz with a Z. If you're in the real estate business as well, go to their website. They can create you a digital business card as well. But if I can help you, click on the link, get in my calendar. I'd love to have an appointment with you and talk to you about how I can serve you in other ways other than just here on Midweek Motivation Live. Until next week, love you guys. I'll see you soon. Be good. Remember, courage begins at the end of your comfort zone. You guys have a great week.